All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. What we have for you guys today is one of the hottest cars in the market, a 2020 350R. The 350R cars have just been on a crazy upswing here the last year, really the last few months especially, but you look over the last 12 months of how these cars have really taken off and the desire to have what really is probably going to be the last of its kind. And it's easy to see why that these cars have had the value increase that they have, over the past 12 months. So what we have here is a 2020, and it's finished in race red. That is the only color that you were not offered stripes for. As many of you will know, the 350R has stripes with the either white or black, and then the red pinstripe. So obviously with red, you can't have a red pinstripe, so they didn't offer any stripes for race red, which pretty cool. I personally like the striped elite cars a lot better on the 350Rs than those cars that do have the stripes. That's nothing to take away from those cars, but even I know guys now with the Ford GTs are really out there looking for striped elite cars in specific colors particularly. And wouldn't be surprised if that's what you see in the future here with the 350Rs. So the paint, as we mentioned, is finished in race red over black cloth and micro suede upholstery. The car is powered by a 5.2 liter Voodoo V8, and that's going to be paired with a 6-speed manual transmission. So everybody loves that Voodoo, that V8, that flat plane crank. Again, kind of the last of its kind. The sound on these things, you guys, if you have been following along with us when we were first getting into the 350Rs with that red line at 8,200 RPMs, the sound of these cars, even as crazy as this is, and you're starting to hear more people say it, for the prices of these cars of where they are now is still a lot of bang for your buck. With everything that kind of comes with it, the track weapon that these cars are, and able to compete with cars that are a lot more in value than what they are. It reminds me a lot of what we were, saying when the ZR1s were just kind of scratching the surface, and we see where those cars are now as well. Everybody loves, their track cars that they can take and have some fun with. And even if they don't, guys like to say, if this car was on the track, what it is capable of doing. So the equipment's going to include a limited slip differential, the 19-inch carbon fiber wheels on all four corners. A big piece and difference from the 350 to the 350R model is those carbon fiber wheels. You have your Brembo brakes, the carbon fiber wing, and your Recaro seats. I gotta say, the carbon fiber wheels, the carbon fiber spoiler with the red really is a great look. Like I mentioned in our opening here, the striped elite cars, they're nice. They go really well when you have the carbon fiber wheels, the carbon fiber wing. You're not taking away anything from the car. I think sometimes the stripe might be a little bit too loud on these cars. Obviously the Heritage cars, different animal, but otherwise, striped elite, in my opinion, I love it. I've seen the Grabber Limes. I think we had the Ford Performance Blues, the orange, just, great cars, great colors on this body style too. So this GT350R has just 7 miles and is now offered with the window sticker still attached to the passenger window, the transport sticker still attached on the driver's side window, along with all your manufacturer's literature. As you go inside, you'll see it's a full wrapper car. You got plastic over both seats, on the door sills, on the navigation screen, sun visors still, some plastic here on the steering wheel. And it's just as you would get as it was rolling off the assembly line and sitting in the dealer showroom, never touched. And you see a lot, especially because there was 280 of the Heritage cars made. You see more of those cars that were wrapper cars. We've had a couple. You really barely ever see a non-Heritage 2020 350R that's still in the wrapper. 280 Heritage cars that were made, we're hearing a little over 700 total production 2020 350Rs made. Those production numbers we've been waiting for since I think October, and I don't know why it's taking so long, but it is. All the other model years were out in a much more efficient time than these are. So, I mean, that's the thing too. Once those production numbers come out, you're probably going to see these cars take another jump, especially certain colors, certain cars that are equipped or optioned certain ways. One of those definitely going to be striped deletes. If you had a black roof, another bonus. So expect, when those production numbers come out, to see these cars, like we said with the Super Snakes, who still haven't released their production numbers, to take a jump here. So the car is finished, like we said, in race red, which was the only color not to be offered with the stripe option. Some of the features are going to be included are the HID projector headlights, a carbon composite front grille, your functional hood and fender vents, a front splitter with the Shelby logo, carbon fiber wing, LED taillights with the sequential turn signals, Cobra puddle lamps, which is cool. When you open the doors, you'll see the Cobra logo that is illuminating on the ground. Really cool. I remember the first one we got, which was the Heritage car. When you open the doors and you saw that, it was really nice. I mean, you see that more and more with the newer cars, but it was the first one that we had, and this first car that we had that, and it was just a nice little touch, something different. Also going to have your quad exhaust outlets. As we mentioned, those black finished 19-inch carbon fiber wheels are going to be wrapped in Michelin Sport Cup 2 tires, and they're going to measure 305 by 30 in the front and 315 by 30 in the rears. So the R specification suspension features a MagneRide damping system, and braking is going to be handled by a 2-piece brake rotor with Brembo calipers on all 4 corners. The cabin features Recaro sport seats trimmed in ebony cloth and micro suede with red accents. The rear seat is omitted on all R models, so if you guys see any 350R, it will be seat delete. Some of them may have bought a kit where you can put a rear seat in it, but they all came out of the factory as a seat delete. Blind spot monitoring, a reverse camera, and a dual zone automatic climate control, unless you had a base R model, but they didn't make those in the later years. Those were really strictly track cars, AC delete, radio delete, along with some other changes. The passenger side dashboard plaque designates that this is a GT350R and is chassis LR322. An Alcantara wrapped steering wheel frames a 200 mph speedometer, a tachometer with an 8250 red line, as we mentioned earlier, which is just absolutely crazy. That's the red line. Supplementary gauges, and a central multi-function digital display. Auxiliary gauges for oil pressure and oil temperature are mounted in the center stack, and the digital odometer indicates 7.4 miles. Obviously, this car being as new as it is, we're not going to rev it up, but if you guys want to hear some of the sounds of the 350Rs on some of our previous videos, if you haven't heard them already, I would highly recommend it. The sound is absolutely nuts. When you hit about 4,000 RPMs, 4,500, this thing just barks, and it's a sound like no other. I say it sounds even better than the ZR1s, and I know that's a lot to say, but it is. It's just absolutely crazy, especially when you flip the switch, make it breathe a little bit. Something you really have to hear yourself, and if you have the chance to ever hear one in person, you won't be disappointed. So the 5.2 liter Voodoo V8 features a flat plane crankshaft, along with the dual overhead camshafts and variable valve timing. So the factory rated output from the Voodoo is 526 horsepower and 429 pounds of torque. The car is equipped with fluid coolers for the engine, transmission, and differential. Power is sent to the rear wheels via a Tremec 6-speed manual transmission and a Torsen limited slip differential with 373 gears. The window sticker manufacturer's literature, 2 keys, and an owner kit are all included in the sale. Real easy, like we said, with our opening here, why these 350Rs, especially the 2020 model years, are rising so quickly and remain the hottest car in today's market. And I'm kind of giggling to myself here a little bit as we're going over the car, because I remember when we and others who had 350Rs were getting abused and told that you're asking GT500 money, that's carbon fiber track pack money, and now it's just kind of a given, and people have come to accept the fact that the 350Rs are doing more and are, in many people's eyes, better cars than the GT500s. You know, you have many different factors for that, and I think a lot of them are going to include, you have with the 350R, the first domestic production car ever to have carbon fiber wheels. You have the first American modern sports car with a flat plane crank engine. The only flat plane crank car ever to put inside of a Ford or Shelby. The last manual naturally aspirated V8 Shelby, and I think that's probably the biggest reason that these cars have just kind of blown by the GT500s and have been competing right now with the carbon fiber track pack cars, but they're going to pass those cars too. You know, you're already starting to see that. You have the final model year, and production numbers are in the 700s, and that is including the 280 heritage cars. So when we say in the 700s, that's for the 2020 model year only. You take away your 280 heritage cars, which great cars, but it's the most produced of any color combination for 2020. So you're left, you know, with what, a little over 400 units. And like we said, when those production numbers come out and you start seeing different colors, different options, different breakdowns, these cars are going to definitely take another leap here. And it's an awesome car. I mean, we love having them. They're getting harder and harder to find. I think, like we said, a lot of people are onto what these cars are, what these cars are going to be in the future in terms of investment. And you can't go wrong here with the 7.5 mile striped Elite, but like we said, it just wasn't an option. Fully wrapper with every piece of documentation. So that's a wrap on our Rapper 2020 350R, finished in race red. If you guys haven't already, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share the channel with your friends. I know a lot of you guys have reached out with emails and comments, and we appreciate all of you who are following along and look forward to bringing you guys some great cars here in the future.